Let's go for it. So, guys, here we are, 1-0. We've just beaten Arsenal 1-0 at their ground, and I'm super stoked. Alex, where do we even start with that performance?
Incredible. I think one of the biggest things is first away win against Arsenal in our history, I believe it is. So that's one thing. Secondly, with the original game sheet that came out and, our lineup, I was skeptical to say the least. So to see the masterclass that came out at the end, it's fantastic.
It's going to be your word of the call so far, isn't it? Masterclass. Over to you, and we'll start off with a bit of the negatives. Well, brilliant, to be honest, the result and everything, and the fact that as Alex was saying, we've won away. But starting off with 4 centre midfielders, do you think that was a bit strange, to say the least? That was definitely a strange move, right?
I thought it was strange, and on another day, as happy as I am that we've got the 3 points, on another day, if Arsenal takes those chances, we're 2 or 3-0 down by half time. So it didn't really work. It didn't sort of nullifying Arsenal's attack. So it's a weird one because yes, once sort of second half, once we started getting forward, we looked very good. But at the same time, we were very fortunate to get the 3 points. It was very much a sort of a smash and grab.
But at the end of the day, I think that's what you kind of need at times, especially going to Arsenal. I think he was thinking of similar tactics. But at the end of the day, if we lose 1-0, we're coming out and slating the team and slating the manager. But we managed to get the points in the end. So just coming on from that, Barnes playing up top, Alex, how did you find that?
I was absolutely terrified. Just Barnes by himself up front. That's just, I don't know why that just doesn't seem like that seems like a recipe for disaster. And I think we kind of saw it in the first 45 minutes. We couldn't get it up. We couldn't get it anywhere close to an attacking position. And whenever Barnes did have the ball and had possession, he was surrounded and he had no one to pass to. And eventually he ended up losing the ball and it went the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're totally right. He's expecting players to come off him like Pratt and Maddison, and they just didn't arrive at times. And we looked okay defensively, but I just think that going forward, I don't know exactly what he was trying. What do you think the tactics were? And going forward, what do you think Brendan Rodgers was before coming into this match and in the first half?
I think for the first half, it was just stay in the game, try not to let them concede and stuff, and hit them on the counter when we could. But my thing with Barnes playing as a solo striker, which he doesn't have that sort of movement and awareness that Vardy has, as sort of when to drop deep, when to make a run in behind and stuff. So, and I don't blame him for that at all, because he is a winger and it's him playing out of position, playing something that he's not used to. So I think he did well in a role that he's not really accustomed to, but I wouldn't want to see him play as a solo striker again, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think we saw it under the last manager. We won't speak of his name, but with Gray and the fact that he was played up top as a striker, and it just didn't work out. But at least with Brendan Rodgers, sometimes we've seen so far that he has one plan, he has his mind, and he just sticks with it. So I think the fact in the second half that we really came out and played, I think, has massive change. Obviously, I think we'll move on to the second half and what happened there. I think there's only one place to start, Alex, isn't there? Really, with the player that really changed the game, in my opinion.
And I think we were all thinking this, and I'm going to say it. It's Jamie Vardy. As soon as he came onto the pitch, it changed. It seemed like possession changed, and just the atmosphere of the game completely shifted into Leicester City's favor. And he came on around the 60th minute, I believe. And I think ever since then, it was it was Leicester City's game to lose at that point. It looked like Rodgers' tactic as the game went further on, it looked like it was more to tire out Arsenal's squad. And then when they finally had it, he'd bring in Vardy, and then hopefully they could capitalize off that. And when you look at it now, it worked to perfection. And you got to give a credit to Under on that beautiful pass over to Vardy, because without that pass, that wouldn't have gone in. So I got to say that I'm excited to see a Barnes and Vardy and Under trio in the future.
Yeah, we definitely are building our squad out. What did you think of Under in this match? Because I know he only had a 50-minute cameo, but I think his confidence from the few games that he's played is really coming up and up, and he's looking like a great player. And
Yeah, you can see sort of he's got that mindset of go forward, have a go at the man, which is something that we sort of criticise Perez for sometimes, playing on that right hand side. He'll make the safe option. So he's going to be very exciting, and I think throughout sort of the season he'll get more and more used to playing in the Premier League, playing with his teammates. So he's obviously like he's one for the. I think he's good now, but he's got that potential to go on to that next level.
yeah, I think so. I think one, obviously he's going to get compared to Mahrez, and we've spoke on this channel a little bit before about how he's going to get compared to Mahrez. But I think one thing that's really surprised me is how quick he was off the line. Like you look at a Mahrez or a Maddison, for example, and they're very skillful, good to get past a player, but the speed in which Under has to make up that ground, or a couple of times, I was just surprised that he was moving that quick. For such a small guy, I was really surprised on how quick he could actually cover that amount of ground. And I think that was really exciting for going forward, wasn't it, Alex?
It was, and I think one of the other things that we don't realize with his speed is that we're so used to seeing players like Albrighton or Perez who really aren't quick. So when you have someone like Under come on and he's wicked fast, it really throws everybody off because we really haven't had that winger there with speed. So when you see him come on and you see him play and the speed that he does have, I think it really shocks a lot of people because it's something we haven't seen on the squad since Mahrez.
Yeah, and the fact that we're even comparing him to Mahrez is such a good sign, and he's going to look like, hopefully, if we can get him here for the long term. But I think this is still infant days for him. There's still a lot of work and a lot of improvement to do. But obviously, to come on when you're 0-0 to play an attacking position against Arsenal shows you the kind of player that Brendan Rodgers trusts him. Because if that was because an attack-minded player at 0-0, if you wanted to go to Arsenal, you could have stuck under the CDM on Hamza Chowdhury and softened up the midfield. They wanted to go for the win. So does that show you a bit of ambition at the end? I think Brendan Rodgers said in his post-match interview as well, it's not how you start the game, it's how you finish. And so is this a perfect example of literally we ended the game just hitting them with opportunities, and it finally paid off for us?
Yeah, and I heard what Brendan Rodgers says, and to an extent I agree with it. But at the same time, if we're sort of 2-3 goals down, it doesn't matter how well we finish the game if we're just scoring consolation. But it worked perfectly today. But one thing I did want to touch on sort of is the fact that David Luiz in that first half was given way too much time on the ball. He was spreading passes left, right, and centre. No one was closing him down. So I think him going off, as much as you don't want to wish an injury upon any player, that was massively sort of a turning point in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'll put on the group chat, I said Operation David Luiz is a go, kind of as that was the main thing, that in the back line they kind of struggled with that. So, but yeah, totally. And that was, I think, one of the first breaks we had in the second half, Alex, I think.
I believe it was. It was a missed opportunity, but I think it was honestly one of the only opportunities that we've had all game at that point. And yeah, we weren't able to capitalize off it. But I think getting Luiz off, unfortunately that it was due to injury, we definitely benefited from it because he really did quarterback the entire first half. He dictated where the ball went. He dictated pretty much anything that Arsenal did in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And the fact that Arsenal weren't really at the game today, to be honest. I think there'll be a lot of disgruntled Arsenal fans with the fact that in the first half and especially the first 30 minutes, they were throwing everything at us. And they nearly got through a couple of times, but because of an offside, they didn't quite have the finishing. I think that one player that didn't have quite the standout game that he has had so far and is Castagna. I thought he got caught out by Tierney quite a few times on that right-hand side.
Yeah, I think he sort of looks in between two minds, whether he wanted to get further forward or whether he wanted to sit back defensively, and it almost sort of did neither and was sort of in between them. But you don't want to go into sort of into a player too hard after we've got a win at a ground that we haven't won at in the Premier League era. So we know how good he's been for us so far. So I just hope it's a slight blip for him.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I think also we got to remember that the guy's only been with us for a couple of months now. He's still got a lot to learn, especially against the big teams like Arsenal that are going to come and throw everything at you. I mean, at the end of the game, they're throwing in, or towards the end of the game, they had Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Pepe all coming out, who, by the way, Pepe for 72 mil or something looks like an absolute joke, to be honest, of a player. But yeah, I think you're totally right. I think Castagna did have a bit of an off game, but the great thing is that the other players carried it through. One player that I did want to touch on was Wesley Fofana. I think this was the game. Obviously, we had the Aston Villa game where he wasn't pressed as much. The Lehance game where it wasn't quite the same tactic. This was a proper test for him, in my opinion. And just over to you, Alex. How do you think he did?
Well, I think you pretty much said it. It was, this was one of the big tests for him. He's slid in, and it's been, he's played quite well against opposing teams. But I think playing against Arsenal, it was a real big test for him, and I think he delivered. If he was there when needed, and he did what he was required to do. And I was quite concerned when he went down, when Lacazette went knee on knee with him, especially with our lack of center back depth. But overall, I've been quite impressed with his play, and I think this just further shows that the high risk, high reward of paying 30 plus million for him, I think it was worth it, especially at such a young age. And he's really proven that in the first few games that he's been in.
Yeah, totally agree. Just one thing that I want to pick up on as well is the fact that we've seen him with his head. We've seen him. He can be good in the air. And he scored against Lehance as well. And it's his ability to, the pace that he's got, because a couple of times when he was breaking down the wing, the calmness that he has, but also the ability to play like a line breaking pass or a long pass in that just splits defenses, I think is going to be a huge, huge bonus for us going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, and we saw it, like I know we were saying about it with sort of David Luiz, how important that can be to have a centre-back that can play those kind of passes. And he's got that in his locker for us, Wesley Fofana. I think we'll see that more in sort of games where we dominate possession and stuff. Compared to today, I believe we had something like 38% possession. So, yeah, like I can't speak highly enough of him, but you don't want to get too carried away. He's only played 3 games, but what 3 games they have been.
Yeah, and it's, as we were saying, it was the Arsenal test that was the big one in my opinion, and it's something that I thought was just fantastic. The way he held up the ball, and bearing in mind he's playing against Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, Saka's a decent player, and Nketiah is decent, and he was marking them all out of the game. So I thought, yeah, it was brilliant. Another thing I wanted to touch on a little bit was, can we just learn to take corners properly? Every time we just get it in the box and get somebody's head on it. Every time we're trying to do these silly, and it just ends up going back to the defense. And I don't really understand what's happening. Maybe I'm just a fan of get the ball in the box and get somebody's head on it, Alex.
I think they need to focus on not only the of taking the actual, corner kick, but also defending the corner kick. They seem to struggle in the attacking zone when they're trying to score, but they were very lucky today with the offside at the start of the game when they were defending. It seems that whenever an opposing team is doing a corner against Leicester, they don't know how to defend properly, it seems. I'm more nervous when it comes to a corner rather than, a 2-on-1 situation, because you don't know what you're going to get. There's always that opportunity on, a 2-on-1 that, Schmeichel's going to come in and make it an absolutely incredible save, or, they're going to bottle it and miss, and lose possession. With a corner, there's something about this squad and how they defend that always has me worried. And with the amount of times that Arsenal had possession, especially when they had corners, it was a nail biter, to say the least. They definitely need to work on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's something that we need to work on, but at the same time, it's from the defensive perspective. Yes, we can definitely work on that, and that's something that's coachable. And same with taking the corners. But I think we are, especially from when that goal went in, I was thinking, right, we've just, by the skin of our teeth, we've just skinned this one, because I thought that was a goal, and it was like the Man City thing with Mahrez, like all over again. That was from a corner as well, where it just bounced off, and then again, it was a great shot. But I think overall it was a great game to work from. And moving into the next game, we'll have somebody from Leeds. We'll do a preview for that. But do you think, especially in the first half, when we came to looking at the way that we were playing football, do you think we were moving it fast enough for the most part? I think it obviously changed when Jamie Vardy came in, and there just seemed to be this relationship where Jamie Vardy comes on the pitch and the whole team seems to know what they're doing, and it was literally immediate.
Yeah, and it's like you say in the first half, as I said before, I don't want to sort of slate Barnes and stuff because he's not a striker, but we had no outlet because he sort of didn't really know where to be and stuff. As soon as Vardy came on, Barnes switched to his normal left wing position, and then we quite often came through Barnes and Vardy dropped deep and stuff, and it just gave us a bit more of an outball. Because in the first half, we got boxed in a lot, which is why we gave away so many corners.
Yeah, I totally agree. The first thing that happened when Vardy came on, it just immediately lifted the entire team. And yeah, as you were saying, Barnes went to that position. I think Maddison came into that right position as well, and he seemed to have preferred that. I think he prefers playing Cam, but he just understands that relationship with the whole team with Vardy, and it's something that he's just such a big part of our squad. But I think moving forward with the amount of games we've got, is this going to be a more regular thing where we're going to see Jamie Vardy benched until the last 30 minutes?
I can't see how he can do that. I just think it's because he's coming back from an injury. But I do think that we'll probably see Iheanacho feature throughout the Europa League and stuff. And Vardy, say we're 2-0 up in a game and stuff, 60th minute, I can see him then getting subbed off early. But I think Vardy's too key to us and too crucial and too important. We saw it once he came on today. Arsenal took 10 yards back, and it sort of allowed us a bit more time on the ball and sort of allowed us to get a foothold into the game. So he's too crucial for us not to play him from the start.
What do you think? You're nodding along, Alex. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that, but I think there's also cause for concern. The team looked absolutely lost in the first half, and as soon as Vardy steps onto the pitch, everybody knows what to do. So what happens when, I hate to say it, but what happens if Vardy picks up an injury? What happens if when he eventually retires? This team really looks at Vardy as a leader, but what happens if Vardy gets injured, and he's not there anymore? This team is going to be walking around the pitch not knowing where to go. And I think this team needs to really find themselves when he's not on the pitch. And I don't think you can rely on one person all the time to be that leader, because when you do run into situations like that, you're going to see exactly what happened in the first half. Completely lost, didn't know what to do with the ball, and we luckily survived that first half. I think that's my biggest concern.
One thing I'd say about that though from the first half is I still think if Iheanacho played instead of Barnes as a striker, we might have had a bit more hold up. Obviously he's not Vardy's level and stuff, but I think the fact that we went from probably one of the best strikers in the Premier League to a young kid who's never really played striker in his life, like the level's always going to be like completely different. The fact that we still do have the option of Iheanacho and stuff, which I just think that we do also need to bring in another addition to that, because Iheanacho is so different to Vardy. He's a good option to have, but it's like you say, we are very reliant on him. But I think it almost seemed to sort of throw Barnes under the bus today, playing him as a striker.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we did kind of have that. And also with Nacho, I can't quite, just as you're coming back to your point, I can't quite understand what Nacho's role is. We brought him in as kind of a stand on the goal line. People get you the ball and you put it in the back of the net. And then recently we've seen him as kind of like a false nine. Or you've got to have Barnes running off him or have Pratt running off him. And he can take the ball and then travel with it, but not finish. But he can finish when he's really close to the goal. So I'm from the identity of a player, I'm just kind of confused about what he actually plays in this team. And also, if there's going to be a game where Jamie Vardy is injured, you're going to try and play Nacho, surely. So I agree with you there. It's definitely a weird move to not play your second striker in a game as crucial and as big as Arsenal as well.
I think also the other thing you need to look at is, I think we were talking about it briefly, but we were saying that Nacho, he seems like he's not as confident as he has been beforehand. And I think this is a game where if you bring him in and you put him in the striking position, instead of Barnes. I think that shows a little bit more. It can give him a little bit more confidence. Now, with Rodgers putting in Barnes instead of him, and he's sitting on the bench, I think that would even be it's more negative. It takes down the little bit of confidence that he might have, and he might not have any. So that's another cause for concern, because now you have Nacho who's being like, okay, well, if Vardy's not playing, they're going to put Barnes as striker. Why am I here?
Yeah, and it's a strange one, but again, it's something that I think we could talk about forever as well. With the amount of we've definitely had this discussion before, where you try to replace Vardy, you've got Nacho. Nacho doesn't quite work, because we looked, for example, against Luhansk, was a great opportunity for him to nail in that position. He was gifted a goal, putting it, and he took that goal pretty well, to be honest. He could have got a couple more as well, but he didn't. And it's that opportunity where, again, they took him off. And I thought against Luhansk, they were going to take him off to play him in this game to start, but it just didn't seem to be the case. But I think, as well, as we were saying, it's a masterclass from Brendan Rodgers, because Jamie Vardy and Under, they just changed the game. And I think, and going forward, is this a form, not a formation? Is this Vardy and Under? Is that something we can really utilize on the break, or just going forward? I think that's going to be a really deadly duo, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what you alluded to there about on the break, the pace that we're going to have in attack with Harvey Barnes, very obviously rapid, Vardy, rapid, obviously not as quick as he was, but still got that pace to get away from players. Under looked very quick. And then not forgetting the fact we're going to have Ricardo coming back as well, and then moving Castagne on the left back. So we're going to have that ability to counter-attack the top teams again, which I don't want us to turn back just to a purely counter-attacking teams, but when we go to the big six clubs, we've got that ability to be able to do that. And like, pace wins games, and we saw that today. But like, having pace on that counter-attack can win you games when realistically we probably didn't deserve to win today, but it gives you sort of another option.
What do you think of that, Alex? Do you think we deserve to win today?
I think, it was a hard-fought battle. First half was quite skeptical, but like I said, they held on, they defended, they were able to, keep Arsenal at bay, and then they were able to capitalize. And I think, having Under definitely on the wing is going to benefit us down the road, because I think it's also going to clear up space, for Vardy. Everyone kind of worries about Vardy, and, they've never really worried about anybody on that right side. Now you have Under coming down the wing. People are going to pay more attention to him. So I definitely think that this was a well-deserved win. They fought hard, and I think rightly so. They deserve the 3 points.
Yeah, I do agree. I think if it's just the way that Leicester play as well. We just soak up pressure in the beginning. We just learn to play, and then we make the substitution. We come out second half just a better and stronger team. We saw the same thing against Man City, where obviously they made a substitution in Fernandinho, which helped a lot. But we made that substitution. We changed our formation slightly. We just hit them, and because they were so used to hitting us back, big teams will go, "Oh, we're not too sure." And obviously the David Luiz thing helped massively. But I'll just go through a couple of statistics from the match. So Arsenal had 57% possession. We had 43. We had 12. Arsenal have 12 shots. We had 6. 4 on target for Arsenal, 2 for us. Corners, we had 3. They had 9. Fouls, 13 and 9. But so overall, you can see that all the statistics are in Arsenal's favour, and they should have won that. But going forward, I think this is just definitely something that we're going to have to work on, isn't it, Alec? Isn't it? And because does it mean that we don't have one identity anymore? We have the counter-attack, and we can also come at teams like we did at West Brom and play.
I think it's almost when you go away to the big six, or even to an extent at home, you've sort of got to change up your game, because we don't have the players to go toe-to-toe with the top teams. So you've almost got to sort of out-tactic them, outsmart them, which is what Brendan Rodgers did today. But I think against sort of the lesser teams who are going to park the bus against us sort of thing, we've got the ability now to break them down and move the ball quickly.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's got. So we've got just a quick preview. We'll do a big preview with somebody from the Leeds fan channel. We're really looking forward to that. But just looking forward to, we'll come back to this game. first of all, who was your man of the match so far, Alex, from this game?
I got to give it to Vardy. Vardy really, he changed the momentum of the game, and he did get the game winner. He got the only goal, but like I said, the game changed when he came onto the pitch. Without Vardy, it could have been a 0-0 draw, or we could have lost. So I got to give it to Vardy on this one.
That's good, shout. Over to you, Anne. Any man of the match for you?
I agree with what Alex said about how good Vardy was. No denying that. But I'm going to give it to Wesley Fofana. The calmness and composure he showed in that game. And obviously, 19 years of age, to go in against sort of three of the elite attackers in the Premier League and pocket them, absolutely brilliant. And he's got such a bright future for us.
Totally agree. I think he was going to be my man of the match until Vardy scored, just for the way that he changed the team and brought everybody up. I think actually for the cameo that Under had, I think he's up there for man of the match for me as well. The fact that I think towards the 85th minute where he's just standing on the ball, showing up this Arsenal defender, and then he ends up just flicking this ball with his left foot right around the outside towards the defender, I thought was really cool as well. So, but I'm going to have to give it to Jamie Vardy just for the impact that he has on the team. It is a bit scary when he is out of the team, but with him in, we do look like a proper top six team. I think at the moment, just looking at the table now, it puts us in, keeps us in fourth place. Aston Villa on the same number of points with the goal in hand on 12 points. Liverpool have 13 points and Everton have 13 points. Both have played 6 games. So it's 1 point in it to the top of the league. However, just looking down from Leeds, and they're on 10 points in 5th place as well, who we've got next. But yeah, I'd like to thank you both for joining. Make sure to subscribe to Beyond the Nines. We've got some more content coming, so we're really looking forward to bringing some more stuff. And we'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.